Hail them.
Hailing frequencies open, sir.
Hailing frequencies. Open.
They're hailing us, sir.
On screen.
Hello, welcome to another Hailing Frequencies Open podcast where we're trekking through the past and future of Star Trek. As always, I'm your host, Mike Jones, and this week joining me are both co-hosts, Aaron and Damien. Say hi, guys.
Hi, guys. Woohoo, we're back.
I am excited because it has been weeks since all three of us have been on the podcast, and eventually all four of us will join us again eventually. But, you know, it'll happen. He's just super busy. But I've missed you guys.
I know. I think we went 3 weeks.
I know.
We skipped a skipped week or something. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I wasn't in the last session, which was a wonderful episode that I did get to listen in on. And I learned more about like Halloween monsters and like the history of them in sort of cinema and pop culture. It was fantastic. That was a great episode.
That was a lot of fun. It did make me appreciate Cat's Paw more than I did. Maybe I just needed a little assist from our friend Jerry.
And somehow we talked about that whole episode and didn't talk about how when she's trying to tempt, I've already forgotten her name, is trying to tempt Kirk, she transforms into different like women. And one of them is a freaky, like clownish outfit with like blonde hair. Somehow we didn't talk about that at all. That's the scariest part of that episode. Anyway.
It's an actual haunted house.
Listen, don't kink shame. You don't like, that's fine. That's
the
fine.
Clowns are the only kink that I'm here to shame.
Oh my gosh. So today we are reacting to, this was prompted by, I should say, the Picard season 3 trailer that dropped, where, spoilers, if you haven't watched the Picard season 3 trailer, go watch it now and come back. But at the end, we learn that a couple characters are coming back. I mean, obviously, the whole TNG crew basically is coming back. We knew that. Lore is coming back, but also Moriarty.
Left field. That was out of left field for me.
Totally. And he does not look happy. So I thought, let's go back in time and talk about this character's appearance in TNG and just talk about some of the theories of what could be coming. If you want, go back and listen to our episode where we covered Elementary Dear Data. It's an episode with just me and Aaron, and I just re-listened to it actually, and there were moments where I was like, oh yeah, that's a good point. Previous me. Like I'd totally forgotten it was years ago.
I agree with myself so much.
Right.
Great
It's
point.
as though you were watching yourself in the holodeck.
Exactly.
Gosh.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about production or just the timeline. Let's talk about Professor Moriarty, James Moriarty, as a character outside of Trek to begin with. First appeared in the 1893 story, The Final Problem, which Sir Arthur Conan Doyle had been writing the Sherlock Holmes stories since 1887. So what is that? 6 years. And he decided to stop. He was going to be done. It was kind of taking over his life. So he created a character to kill Holmes, an equal to Holmes in intellect and the exact opposite of Holmes, but equal. And so he's this incredibly powerful character. And guess what? At the end of the story, he kills Sherlock Holmes. They both die. They both not. I mean, spoilers from this 1893 story. And then he didn't write any more Sherlock Holmes for 8 years. Holmes fans call that the Great Hiatus. Mm-hmm. I'm learning. Then guess what? He decided money is fun to have. Mm-hmm. And
yeah, it's a cash cow, man. Give the people what they want.
So 1901, he jumps back into writing some Sherlock Holmes. Moriarty appeared again in the 1915 book, The Valley of Fear, and is referenced in 5 other stories. And that's it. That's all that the character appeared in the original Doyle books. Of the 4 novels and 56 short stories, he only appears in the flesh once, plays a role, but doesn't appear in the Valley of Fear, and then is referenced 5 other times. But I feel like his character is bigger than that. Like, he is the Joker to Batman. Like, he is the bad guy for this character. And the fact that it's so set in our, collective consciousness that way, I mean, sure, it has something to do with, the movies and various depictions of him. But well, like, recently,
I mean, if you watch the Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlock from the,
you mean Khan?
For Khan, yes, when Khan decides to play Sherlock. Oh God, he's just so good. It makes me mad. But there again, they take Moriarty, Professor Moriarty, but they just call him Moriarty, as his arch nemesis. It's just, he's such a delicious character because he's terrifying. He's terrifying, and it's interesting that you bring up the Joker. He's terrifying in the way the darkest Jokers are written, because he really is that sort of like just as capable, just as cunning, just as intelligent, has the means, but uses it for evil. Joker's a little more evil / chaos, whereas Moriarty is pretty targeted on Holmes. But it's a great villain to hold on to. So I think that's because with all the other stories, it's just like, oh, the bad guy is the person who did the crime, and once Sherlock solved the mystery, like, that's him. Figured out the thing with the Red-Headed League, figured out the thing with the hounds, and then they just kind of disappear. Whereas Moriarty is this sort of looming threat in the background, which is just delicious.
Well, and a lot of the plot lines of the older stories he ties into, like, come to find out, Moriarty was like the puppet master behind a lot of the other things that were going on. I think the way Star Trek has used the character. So jumping ahead, 100 years, Elementary Dear Data first aired in December 1988, and then the character comes back in Ship in a Bottle, January 1993, 5 years later. So there's a reason why there's a 5-year gap in between the episodes. And I don't know if you guys know about this, but it was a copyright issue. This is really weird, and I read it like twice today, and I still don't quite understand. So the works of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle that were written before 1923 are currently in the public domain. That copyright expired in 1980, but the things he wrote from 23 to 27, which is, I think, 10 Holmes stories, those will not enter the public domain until 2023. So there's a gray area about his characters.
Oh, interesting.
Right.
So 2023, when the new season of Picard comes out.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right?
That's interesting. But I wonder, I always thought that copyright, like, I thought that it was 75 years.
It's one of those cases like Mickey Mouse where there was an argument made to extend the copyright, and it's different for every country. I'm only talking about in the US.
There were some really expensive lawyers hired by the Conan Doyle estate.
Yes. Well, and when they made Elementary Dear Data, the writers producers were under the impression that the character was just in public domain. And it wasn't until after it was fully shot and in the can that up and said there's actually a problem, because the Doyle estate was fighting with Paramount over the movie Young Sherlock Holmes. And
which, by the way, traumatized me. Is a terrifying movie for a child to watch, to be clear. It is terrifying. It was like I still am scarred by that movie. I won't watch it. Continue. My apologies.
That's amazing. That's one of those movies that we had on VHS. You know, like my parents would rent a movie and we had 2 VCRs and we'd make a copy of everything we rented. So illegal. But we definitely had like a bootleg copy of Young Sherlock Holmes that I watched over and over.
It's terrifying.
It is terrifying.
That was scary.
Yes. As a child, I was like, my greatest fear is ritualistic human sacrifice by a cult. Where would I have gotten that but that movie? Anyway.
Right? I forgot that movie existed until now. Oh.
But it was like, apparently they were like, their spat was over that movie. And then they're like, oh, Star Trek is fine.
Right. Yeah. So 5 years later, Jerry Taylor looked into it, and the Doyle estate was actually like, "Oh, actually, you're fine. Like, we just wanted you to ask permission, and our problem was really with this other movie, not Star Trek." Like, you know, so they got the green light to use the character again. The actor who played Professor Moriarty, Daniel Davis, I think of him as Niles from The Nanny.
Exactly. Iconic.
That's who he is.
Which, looking at the dates, this Ship in a Bottle aired January 93, and the pilot for The Nanny aired November 93. So this is just pre-Nanny.
Amazing.
And I'm so happy that he's going to be back. Like during the pandemic, the Nanny cast did this like Zoom reading of the pilot episode, and it just like, I loved the Nanny, but like they were all great, but he was just like on it. Like I was like, yeah, we need to get him back, and it happened. I manifested that. You're welcome.
That's just, you put it on your vision board, Mike Jones. And you made it. You made it happen. Thank you.
So let's do a quick, very short synopsis of these 2 episodes, Elementary Dear Data and Ship in a Bottle. I'm going to put you guys on the spot because I didn't write a synopsis, but we know these episodes so well.
We do.
Who wants to say what Elementary Dear Data is about?
Hot diggity. Which one do you want to do, Damien?
Your dog really wants to.
My dog is so invested in this. Listeners at home, you really need to pay the extra money to get on our Patreon. And if you do that, I'll show you my dogs so that you can see these ferocious hellhounds. Which one would you like to take?
I'll do the first one because it's so tied in with Pulaski, and I know how much Mike loves Dr. Pulaski.
This is actually the closest I come to liking her, for what it's worth.
Well, yes, but also this is where she is the most anti-Data. I mean, she really leans in hard, right?
Yeah.
So Data and Geordi are on the holodeck, and Geordi is getting frustrated because Data is not making it any fun for him because he is solving all the mysteries too easily. He knows all the books, he knows all the stories. And so and then in 10 forward, Pulaski overhears them talking about it. And she says, "You're wasting your breath, Lieutenant. There's no way that Data does not have the human qualities to be able to solve a real mystery." And so she creates this situation where where Geordi feels like he's got to defend Data's humanity by creating a Conan Doyle style mystery that Data must solve. And along with that, a villain, an adversary capable of outsmarting Data. And with that,
that's the key.
A sentient being is created by the computer. We're to believe.
It's just that easy.
It's literally
I
just
love
that
that
easy.
it's basically a typo the verbal equivalent of a typo, and the computer's like, sure, we'll destroy ourselves. There's no fail safe at all to just a slip of the tongue.
Surely they've added some kind of like fail safes in the holodeck after this, so that they don't accidentally create, Thanos or something,
Well, yeah, I mean, there have been, I mean, Star Trek continues to accidentally create sentient beings well into the future of the canon here. So I don't know how much they've learned their lesson. But
that's true.
But what? So they're on the holodeck, and Dr. Pulaski gets abducted or gets taken hostage by Moriarty, and he takes control of the Enterprise. He makes it shake a lot, and then it is upon Picard to come into the holodeck and negotiate with Moriarty, and he basically just he convinces him of his sentience, and he kind of just agrees to hand the ship back over.
Yeah,
that's kind of how it ends. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm skipping something.
I think. Oh, sure. I think Picard definitely leaves him with the thought that we're going to work on this. Like, we'll get back to you. We're saving your program. Like, we could make you real. We think we're working on this. One day we'll help you out, right? That's the implication.
He's led to believe that. And are we as the audience led to believe that then Picard and his team are then working on ways to turn Moriarty into like a flesh and blood human? I don't think so. I think we see that he's dangerous. And
I get the sense that maybe they submitted an IT ticket to be like, hey, let's look into this. We may have created a life form. Can you just look into this on the back end to see? And no one followed up on it. So it just sat there, and the help desk called back, and they called back 3 times. And if you don't answer on the 3rd call, they just kind of close the ticket.
Well, and they don't leave a warning buoy around the program in any kind of way. They don't. And actually, what is terrifying to me is, and now getting into the follow-up episode, is that he is there and is sentient and is aware of the passage of time and is trapped inside of the computer all that time.
Yeah, that's horrifying.
Yeah. Which is this a natural transition to discuss
absolutely.
Ship in a Bottle? So several years later, Data and LaForge are doing their little fun Sherlock Holmesy thing again on the holodeck.
They're role playing.
Yeah, they're having a good time. They're LARPing, and and something happens, and Data is like, blah, 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 because they're left-handed. And the person reacts with their right hand, or the opposite. But basically they're oh, wait a minute, computer, you're messing up. You're someone's supposed to be right-handed, but they're left-handed. There's a glitch. And so there's a glitch in the game. And so they're like, let's get one of our lieutenants in here to fix it. Oh, it's just Barclay.
Barclay's got nothing better to do.
Right. We'll send Lieutenant Broccoli in there.
He's an expert at the holodeck.
Yeah, exactly. Why are you it's like taking the alcoholic and being like, there's a problem with the beer tap.
Yeah. We're just going to put him right back in there. So basically he goes to the computer and he's like, where are all the weird and messed up files? And the computer's like, oh, here's a bunch. And there's some that are special protected. And of course, because he's a junkie, he's like, oh, let's look at that one. He activates it. It's Moriarty. And the professor is pissed because he's like, I was sentient and conscious that entire time. I was in the computer and time was just passing. I can't, this is Aaron speaking. Imagine the horror of that. Was it solitary confinement? Was he aware of other weird stuff happening on the holodeck? Was he what was he conscious of?
But theoretically, does he not have access to all of the known information in the entirety of the ship's computer? He could be entertaining himself at length.
Theoretically.
But they made some reference to the file being protected, sectioned off somehow. So I don't know if there was a firewall around it or something. But he
said he drifted in and out of existence, that there was a terrifying disembodied experience.
which makes
It's
sense
horrifying.
because he's a character from a book who all of a sudden doesn't have a body, and he thought he had one, but he never did. But he thought he did. In any event, long story short, we've got like Picard there, and we've got Data, and we've got Barclay, and they're working on this thing. And Moriarty's like, I want to walk off the holodeck. And they're like, that's probably not a great idea. And he's like, you know what? I speak Latin, and I think therefore I am. And he walks,
Yes.
he walks off the goddamn holodeck. And everyone, and we go to commercial, and everyone is gasping,
They're like,
it's terrifying. It's amazing. No one understands what's happening. Picard is like, you are sentient. You are a new life form. Can you stay on the ship? Please don't go anywhere. We want to keep you here. And Moriarty's like, I promise I'm going to be good now. I'm going to be good. I won't get into trouble. I need my lady love, who we hadn't learned about before, but he has a lady love, and her name is Regina. And he's like, I can't do it without my Regina, the Countess Regina Bartholomew. She's the most beautiful. She's the most perfect. And of course we meet her, and she's wonderful. She's great. She's a modern woman. She wants to travel. She loves Moriarty for his mind, and Moriarty legitimately seems in love with her. So it's kind of like, oh, wow, you're kind of rooting for these two crazy kids. But Regina can't get off the holodeck. So Moriarty's like, listen, I am going to control the ship and do terrible things, because outside there are like 2 stars or planets about to collapse into one another. And if the Enterprise doesn't move, it's going to be lights out for everybody. So the stakes are high. There's like a 5-hour timeline to figure out how to do something that's impossible, which is take matter and energy off the holodeck, or take energy off the holodeck and turn it into matter in the real world. And so they're working through this. They try to do it with a chair. They're trying to do all these things. This is not a short synopsis. I apologize in advance. So I'm going to cut.
It's complicated. It's Inception.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Because what then ends up happening is Geordi is like, oh, I think I figured something out, Captain. We need you to put in your codes. And the captain puts in his codes. But spoiler alert, it turns out that it wasn't Geordi at all. It was a computer program, because Geordi uses his hand, and he's like right-handed instead of left-handed. Oh my God, we never left the holodeck. The whole thing was a hologram inside of a hologram. And Picard
inside the house.
Yeah, the call's definitely coming from inside the house. And Picard just gave his executive command codes to Moriarty. So this is bad. So like the real ship with like real Riker is like, what's going on? What do we need to, this is bad. This is bad. Moriarty is threatening them. Figure this out. Figure out how to do these things. Meanwhile, on the inside, Picard is being very, very sneaky, and they are figuring out a way to fool Moriarty. And what ends up happening is they create this situation where they reprogram the computer so that Moriarty thinks that he and Regina get off the ship. They put him in a shuttlecraft. They send him out, and Moriarty's like, okay, you honored your part of the deal. I'll honor mine. He gives control of the ship back. So everyone's able to get off the holodeck. But Moriarty is still in there. He's still in the program. And so what they do, which despite the fact that Moriarty was really a son of a bitch, it's a kindness. They basically take him and Regina in that program, and they give it like this battery that will essentially last for a lifetime. And there's enough memory in this thing for them to literally explore the universe in their little holodeck world, and they'll never know that they weren't on the holodeck.
They'll never know.
They'll never know that they weren't in the real world the whole time. They'll live out their dream.
Or at least that's what they assume from outside of the little world they've created. They don't really know. They don't really know what's happening inside there, what their experiences will be in there.
Yeah. Right. And based on the fact that we see Moriarty is not too happy on Picard.
He's armed himself. Well, it's a classic. It's a classic Wrath of Khan situation. Like, did they ever check on him? Did they ever like plug that box in and be like, let's see what they're doing in there?
Maybe they submitted another IT ticket, but they just didn't answer. They didn't answer the calls. Right. You know what happens? 3 calls, that's it.
They're getting a lot of stories. I mean, it's the lower decks. It's the second contact situation. All these stories from you realize that the whole format of the original Star Trek and Star Trek Next Generation, the adventure of the week,
right?
That it leaves them
every week.
Right. They assume that they've done some sort of kindness to people, and then they leave, and then they don't think about them again. And I have a feeling that is very much what Picard is going to be all about, is going to be things that they think that they have done right that are coming back to haunt them like that. Messes
that they've made and have to clean up. I was thinking about this, the box. I'm just going to call it the box. That Moriarty and Regina, I'm such a middle schooler. I giggle when I say it, are in. So I wonder what happened to it. Well, it was on the Enterprise D, but then the Enterprise D was destroyed. So clearly it survived that. And then did it move to the E? Did it move to, in lower decks, they have that like prison for evil computers, is it sitting in one of those little cells?
Or has it somehow been found by lore?
Oh yeah,
right.
And in Picard, in the first season, they have that ban on synthetic life, on synths. Like, is he technically a synth? And then, I don't even know what that means. Then would there be an argument to unplug the cube or what?
It's all very complicated. I mean, and it's hard not to think about our other dear holographic character, the Doctor from Voyager.
The Doctor,
who it's a very different depiction of achieving sentience, right? Because the Doctor, we're led to believe, was not sentient until it was his long-term interactions and friendships and experience, that over time that he became more than his programming, as opposed to just like a glitch of creation. But that, I don't know what happens to the Doctor in that Picard universe. Or
it's a great question.
For Moriarty.
I mean, would they consider it synthetic life if it isn't like an android that's passing for human? I mean, they didn't say that you couldn't have like the holograms, like the ship systems where, you can have that doctor or that, like, I feel like I don't know that it would fall under that.
But I think that like Rios's holograms of himself on the ship they're not sentient. They're just hologram programs.
Right. The question.
So there's a fine line. Yeah.
Well, they must have learned over the years some way to prevent that from happening. To see that it's possible. To see that. Well, if Voyager had done a season 8 at home, you would the Doctor's story would have inevitably been about convincing people that he was that he was a sentient life form, which, over the years, the Voyager crew came to respect him as that. Would everybody just sort of automatically get on board with that or not?
Right. Or not. I would probably think not. I mean, isn't there a bunch of Doctor androids working as like miners in some, coal mine somewhere or something like that? I remember an episode where we find out what happens to like the Mark V version of the emergency medical hologram, and they're all like slaves. Is Regina actually sentient?
We don't know that.
I don't think she is.
Moriarty.
Yeah,
right. He proposes that, well, why don't we make her sentient in the same way that you made me sentient, by just basically having the computer make the Countess Regina able to defeat Data, or you know what I mean, whatever phrase made the computer do it.
Well, yeah,
and then,
I mean,
and Picard just shudders at the thought. He's like, well, the moral implications of purposefully trying to create life in the holodeck is unfathomable. And then Moriarty says that he did it. He was like, well, of course I've given her life like I have life, but did he? Is he like? I don't know if we're going to see her, is my question.
Probably not. I think it's super tricky because is he actually sentient? Or did the computer create a character basically saying, okay, what if Moriarty was sentient? What would he do in this situation? Like the computer imagining what would happen if something became sentient. Again, it's the layer within the layer within the layer, but
right. It's the ship in the bottle.
Or not to confuse the issue, but Vic Fontaine.
Vic Fontaine
on Deep Space Nine was created to be self-aware, knew that he was a holodeck, but also knew that he wasn't alive.
Yeah.
Right. He knew that he didn't have a sense that he had a spirit or that he was a person with a soul, but he knew what he was.
Yeah. Well, and I'm behind. I'm catching up on Discovery, and I'm seeing that in the future, the ship is becoming self-aware and developing emotions.
Yeah.
And emotional intelligence. I mean, no spoilers. I don't know what ends up happening with that, but like there's lots of conversations happening with Zora right now. And I'm like, this is feeling a little like 2001.
I'm sorry, Dave.
Making me uncomfortable.
Or Andromeda, the other that series with Kevin Sorbo based on a Gene Roddenberry concept where the ship had a consciousness.
Oh, I never watched that. Was it good? I'm guessing from the expression on your face, you weren't a fan.
I mean, I feel like, no, I don't think it was good, but I haven't watched it since the 90s. So, I might watch it now and be like, this is great, but I doubt it.
I doubt it. Kevin Sorbo was hot, right?
Right. Kevin Sorbo was hot, or is hot. I don't know. I haven't seen him in a long time.
Maybe I doubt it now.
I think, didn't he? No, I don't even want to guess.
Holler if you're hot, Kevin. Find us. Probably not, though. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm deeply uncomfortable with the idea of being in a tin can hurling through the void of space and having it be sentient, and maybe it gets mad at me. I just think that's
and how maybe it's watching everything you're doing.
Yeah, like that. I don't feel great about that.
Well, what they do on Discovery is they make it clear that Zora is motivated. It's not a spoiler, but is motivated only by like the purest of love for all of the crew. So that is.
Oh, that's nice.
And
that can also be problematic.
For sure.
Like if again, no spoilers, but you can be an overprotective parent and then not let your child live their life.
Did they like put in coordinates and she's like, no, you shouldn't go there. That's a dangerous part of the universe. I'm not going to take
you might
comment.
be a Discovery writer.
No comment. Yes, you should. Yes, you should get a JOB there.
Yeah, keep going.
I'm just
love
a
that
mom.
you literally.
I'm just a mom. I'd be like, I want to go on. No, you're not going there. You're not going there. I want to go hang out with these people. That's not happening.
That's a bad idea.
No, you're going to stay home and I'm going to make you some chicken nuggets and you're going to watch Coco again. Mama Coco, your papa loves you very much.
Now here's the question: Is our Star Trek Moriarty as dangerous as the Conan Doyle? Is he pure evil?
I think that my thought is that he is written to be evil. And when he gets sentience, if we assume that it actually is sentience, and he sees how big the universe is and how much he has to learn, he is extremely self-interested, and that is always his motivation, is what I want. But it's not evil, because the evil had to do with him hating Sherlock Holmes and wanting to ruin Sherlock. Sherlock is a fiction, and he's realizing that he was written to be a character in a world that's non-existent, but now he's a genius and he has the universe unlocked to him. So I don't feel like he's evil, but he's willing to sacrifice everything to get what he wants. And he puts what he wants above the health and safety of everyone else. So it doesn't make him a good guy.
I would say it's baked into him. And what if he takes that obsessive hatred of Holmes and transfer it to someone like Picard?
Well, also, especially even more powerful if we do not see the Countess Regina Bartholomew, because something terrible has happened to her in the interim.
Yeah.
And he's mad as hell.
Much like Khan's wife was killed and Kirk never checked up on them.
Yeah, see, I could see Moriarty being homicidally angry at Picard for any number of transgressions, real or imagined. But I don't feel like he's inherently evil, because if he were inherently evil, he would have taken Regina, gone off on that shuttlecraft, and he would have left the Enterprise. I mean, in the simulation. Well, actually, but no, if he hadn't released it, it would have been in the real world too. He would have left it there to be destroyed so that they couldn't come after him.
That's true.
Right. And he would have destroyed himself also in doing that, because he didn't understand that he was in a simulation still on the ship.
Right. So that's why I think that he's not evil, but that doesn't mean he doesn't in season 3 have a drive to destroy Picard. And maybe he becomes more of that like evil Moriarty type character. I don't know how extensively he's going to be utilized. I think that that's exciting.
You know, I was listening to a Disney podcast, not to change gears too much, but they've announced that they're building a Disney a villain section of the Magic Kingdom.
Oh, that's fun.
But the podcast I was listening to, they pointed out Disney doesn't really make villains anymore. The stories are complex. There are antagonists, but they're not truly evil characters anymore like they once were. You know, we don't really have a Jafar or Maleficent in the modern films. That they might just be they're more complex than that. And I think the same is true for Moriarty here. I think that he's grown, but it's complex. He's definitely an antagonist, but is he pure evil? Like, kind of no, because that's boring, actually, if he was just pure evil. Right. He has to be more complex than that. He has to have some layers. And I think that he does. I think that there's a lot of potential. I'm really glad that they're bringing him back.
Mm-hmm. My
fear. Sorry.
Go ahead.
My fear is that it's like a red herring, that we see him in like a fantasy sequence or a dream or something, and they put it in the trailer to make everybody excited. That's my fear.
Well, you know what's interesting though, what you said earlier about the actual Conan Doyle Moriarty is that he lurks in the background, secretly pulling all of the strings. So maybe it's the opposite of that. Maybe he is the actual antagonist of the whole thing.
Well, and if he was created to kill Holmes, maybe they're bringing him in to kill Picard.
Maybe.
You know?
Yeah, because it can't be Data. Data's gone.
Right. Maybe that could be the big finale, some like sacrifice where Picard has to die in order to end Moriarty. That's the only way. His own Reichenbach falls.
I mean, I wonder if. Go ahead, Dean.
I was going to say that the whole cast is very much pushing for big screen movies.
Oh, well, of course,
which makes me feel like none of them are going to die.
Of course they are. Well, yeah, I mean, Picard's also an android at this point, so they can just download him into another body or something, right?
Right. I keep forgetting that. That's easy to forget that, isn't
it? Yeah.
I forget that. Well, I wonder if does that factor in? Like, does Moriarty get some access to Picard And, he gets angry because why does Picard have a right to exist in the real world if he's, mostly artificial? If he's his consciousness in a more artificial form, why can't Moriarty insert his consciousness into a constructed form? And we're seeing on Discovery that they built the Guardian kid, and his consciousness went in from the non-binary person back into the Guardian, and like his body is organic, but it's synthetic.
Your
but it's
synopsis
real.
of Check in the Bottle was way better than that.
I'm just saying that
they give Gray a body.
Right. They give Gray a body. Yeah, they give Gray a
body.
body. Gray, I couldn't remember. His name was completely escaping me. And I'm like, the little like elfin creature, the wonderful, sweet little creature who was invisible to everybody else.
Oh my God.
That's funny.
I really like Gray.
Love Gray.
I want to see more Gray. Where I am right now is Gray is like getting to know Zora because everyone is busy and they're like playing a game. And that's where I had to pause it. So I'm so excited.
Stuff. You're in a good place.
So excited.
Oh, it's
anyway.
Good.
Yeah,
it's good. But that actually is a great call. So because so much of Picard is about putting consciousness into bodies. That's very season 1. That it's very much of a Soong thing, and we're definitely just because we're getting lore doesn't mean we're getting other Soongs, right? Because we keep getting them throughout.
We can't assume that.
We can't assume. So maybe he's a fully corporeal life form now, but holding a revolver. That's what I question.
Yeah,
this will all age poorly.
So maybe this will
all age poorly.
So maybe this is back on the holodeck. Maybe this is back on the holodeck, or a holodeck, or some sort of whatever the future of the future version of a holodeck is, because I'm sure it's upgraded.
Where it doesn't even need walls anymore. I don't know. I mean, the
mobile emitter isn't even invented until the 27th, 25th,
29th century?
Thank you, sure.
I think.
Our Voyager details are now getting rusty. I apologize.
But I don't know if maybe, I mean, that's a whole other kettle of fish, but, do they figure out how to reverse engineer the mobile emitter to make more of them, or, but I don't know. Because that would solve this problem. That would
screw with the timeline.
Would definitely screw with the timeline.
Butterfly effect.
Janeway doesn't care about the timeline.
Never did.
No, she's just kind of like a cowboy.
Yeah.
Yes.
She also wants to come back in a real live action. Speaking of the cast wanting movies, she wants a series. She wants a Soong body.
I'm here for it.
Wow, listen. Well, and I love now that they're literally they're all taking to Twitter. They're all like, you, the fans, can make me a series.
Right.
Yep.
Which Michael Dorn tried one of my favorite years ago.
Okay, so this is like a little sidebar because I was watching Lonely Among Us last night because I was like, that is the first episode where we see Data's fascination with Holmes. And by the way, it's totally inappropriate because Assistant Chief Engineer Singh totally dies and Data goes off on this pretend pipe smoking thing and everybody's laughing at how charming it is. You're like, that dude just died. But okay.
Yeah.
But
the Chinese finger trap.
They can be pretty flip. They can be pretty flip when a red shirt dies.
But they mention that the chief engineer is Chief Engineer Argyle, who appeared several times.
Yes.
Argyle, he was famous for, there was a letter writing campaign to bring him in as the chief engineer for season 2. Did you know this?
No.
And do you know what? And they were looking into it because they're all these fans want Argyle to be the chief engineer.
Was it just him?
The campaign himself. That was literally my favorite trivia bias, that Argyle started his own letter writing campaign to be the chief.
That is amazing. Well, I mean, I think he pulled that right out of the Gene Roddenberry playbook. I mean,
yes.
That's amazing.
B. Joe Trimble herself.
Listen, if you're not going to advocate for yourself,
right?
Who, yeah, absolutely.
That's a
maybe
Twitter. That's.
Give me.
We're getting so. We're getting so many spin-off series. Maybe Argyle, Star Trek Argyle's coming up next.
You know what? I'd probably watch it just to see.
I'd give it a shot.
I would watch it.
I'd give it a shot. I mean, we're already subscribing to Paramount Plus, so we might as well get our money's worth. Which, by the way, Paramount Plus, if you are listening, your app is crap. We need to talk about
I have
the app.
specific complaints, yes.
Like, it's not
Try watching something that's already been watched.
Yeah.
Have you done this?
Yeah.
Have you done this?
No, it's a nightmare.
I literally had to create another profile to watch something that had already been watched.
What?
I wouldn't let you.
Oh.
Yes.
I didn't have that issue. I was able to go back and watch stuff again, but it was like it was pulling teeth.
What's the word I'm looking for? The interface is so clumsy.
Yeah.
And it lags really bad. It is no good.
So now my mom goes into her Paramount Plus, she's going to think her boyfriend was watching Star Trek.
Well, I'm going to put this out into the universe. I don't really care if Regina comes back, but in Elementary Dear Data, he really clicked with Dr.
What's her name?
Pulaski.
Oh, you really paused like you forgot her name.
Dr. Pulaski.
I was waiting for one of you to say it.
Yeah,
listen, I feel like I'm the Dr. Pulaski of this podcast, so I feel like I'm never going to forget her name.
No, because I like you. Because I like you, Damien.
Thank you. That's okay.
I just want her to come back and him to stuff her with crumpets.
Isn't she dead?
No.
No. In fact, in that follow-up episode,
the actress is alive?
She's alive.
Yes.
And they all hate her. No one has a nice thing to say.
I'm not trying to be flip. I thought for some reason that she'd like passed away years ago.
No, she stepped into an elevator shaft on LA Law.
Yes,
that was her
LA Law.
She did. That's how they killed her.
That's how they wrote her out.
But there is a YouTube channel like entirely dedicated to, and you can go down this rabbit hole if you look for it, to like all of the scandals of people who left Star Trek, which include all about how they hated Diana Muldaur and how Rick Berman bullied Terry Farrell out of Deep Space Nine and Denise Crosby out of season 1 and all these women. The misogyny of Star Trek, as a whole. Well, and on that same channel, Kate Mulgrew talks real shit about a lot of people in conventions. Like she thought nobody had a phone the whole time.
Wow.
She doesn't need a filter.
Oh, yeah, look at that. She's definitely alive. Good
she
for
retired. You. PBS did those hour-long interviews with people. I forgot the name of the series. But she did one of those because she was also like the president of the Screen Actors Guild or something like that, for the TV version. Like she actually had a really fascinating career. But they did that a few years ago. So it's actually a really interesting interview. It's all on the internet. But yeah, she doesn't have nice things to say about her time on TNG either. So I doubt she would come back. But wouldn't it be fun?
I mean, listen, if they're pulling things out of left field, and you know what, if they pulled that out of left field for the trailer, I feel like there's more waiting for us when we finally watch the show.
Yeah.
Like we didn't really know we were going to get it. Oh, never mind. How far are you on season 2, Aaron? Picard, have you watched it?
Oh, I've watched all of I watched all of Picard.
Okay.
Yeah,
so we didn't know we were going to get a young guy in.
Yeah,
right.
That was fun. I was like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we didn't know. You finished it, right?
Yeah. Yep.
We didn't know we were getting Wesley Crusher.
That was fun when he showed up. And he's not in season 3.
Supposedly
it's just a cameo.
We know of.
He's in his own show. He and Corey are the Doctor Who of Star Trek. Time travelers correcting the timeline.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I would watch that. I would watch the shit out of that. Them just retcon everything and have like them in the background of episodes, like stopping other bad things from happening to interrupt the timeline. I would watch the shit out of that. Take my money.
Paramount, are you listening? Make this happen.
Listen, you have 3 people that you could just bankrupt, I would absolutely watch. Damien's like, I don't know, I'm not sold.
No, I would. No, you know what I'm
sold.
thinking of? You know what I'm thinking of the Deep Space Nine episode where they go to the Trouble with Tribbles?
Yes.
And they use all the footage from the original episode and they sort of walk right through it.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a whole series of that waiting to be happened. There's a lot of
that.
A whole series. Have them drop into like animated episodes, but just have them drawn as cartoon characters in the background, and they can even make a passing comment about like, don't overthink it, just go. Like it would be good.
It would be so good.
That's the kind of character that Star Trek really needs, though. By the way, it's like when the babble comes in, like someone just be like, "Don't overthink it, just go." That's fine.
Right.
It's fine.
It's timey-wimey.
Timey-wimey. Yes, the magic of the TARDIS.
Right.
We all understand each other. We all speak English.
Yes. No. It's wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff.
That's the first part. Wibbly wobbly. I couldn't do that.
I think so. Yeah. It's bigger on the inside.
We have a little time to wait, depending on when I get around to actually publishing this episode, to see Picard season 3 to come out. But I hope that all of our dreams come true, and that I'm mainly excited about the rest of the cast coming back. I'm just super stoked about season 3.
So excited.
So excited.
Same. I'm excited to see them. It's going to feel like a big warm hug.
Middle school Damien hasn't been able to sleep since he found out. That's peeing his pants.
Exciting.
Amazing.
I wonder if Michael Dorn is like sort of cursing under his breath, like, I forgot how long it took to get this makeup on. Like,
Right?
can you imagine after so many years of your skin breathing again to go in that chair and have all the different layers put back on?
Yeah.
I feel like
Maybe
they've
it's better
streamlined
now.
it, though. I feel like they've streamlined it.
Maybe, but with like high def, you've got to get that stuff
It
right.
has to look
like,
good.
True.
Well, they've with the white hair and the way they've done his mustache, he's a little Colonel Sanders-y. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, the feedback was polarizing on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because his mustache never used to meet in the middle. And now that you wouldn't think that's a big deal, but it meets in the middle now, and it's white, and he's Colonel Sanders.
It makes him. It's less. It feels less Asian.
Yeah, it's less Asian, less alien. Well, I mean, you know what I mean.
We know what you mean.
Right.
When I think of Colonel Sanders, I think about how with the logo, with the weird bow tie, I think it's a stick
like a
figure
little
body. And once you think of it that way, you can't not see it that way.
So now you're gonna look at work that way.
I'm just hungry for chicken. Okay. Well, I think that we have.
Like says, we've fallen apart.
We've gone off the rails, and it's time to wrap it up.
It's like when we started Aaron on a laughing fit about the dolphins.
Right. The dolphins are real. Oh, I love how. Speaking of, how much dolphin or whale action there is in Lower Decks.
I have not caught up on that. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I feel like there's whales in the finale, and I have not yet watched it.
I'm here for it. All
the
sea
finale is
mammals.
great.
I am pro sea mammals in space. I didn't know it would be a thing in my life, but it now is, and I embrace it.
And it's wonderful.
Part of me is dying to be able to do a Scottish accent, so I can say, "Admiral, there be whales here."
I mean, we could probably hire a tutor for you or something.
A dialect coach.
Right, dialect.
Is that in the budget, Mike? Is that in the budget?
The budget is $0.
Yes.
Listen, you the listeners can make this dream a reality for Damien.
Yes.
All right. Thank you all for listening to us today and on our trip down the garden path of whatever we've been talking about. Along with,
Moriarty.
No one knows.
The nature of existence.
Absolutely.
Fried
We're
chicken.
pondering the big questions.
The big questions. Well, if you have an opinion on this, make sure you tweet at us or send us a message. You can find us at Hailing Freak Open or at hailingfrequenciesopen.com. Make sure you give us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast, and you're subscribed so you don't miss an episode. And I think that's about it. Anything else, guys?
That's all she wrote.
No, I love this topic. I love Moriarty.
Good.
That's it. Hailing frequencies closed.